My 2016 NC Honda doesn't come with an ambient air temperature gauge, so I bought this little unit on eBay. It's supposed to be for a fridge or freezer, so it's waterproof. And looks like it'll be okay. That little tag on the back I'll have to take off, and I'll take those little bumps off as well so that it sits flat. And I'd like to mount it just here. There's a small removable panel there, but you've got to take the whole fairing out to get that removable panel out, and the gauge is a bit wider than that little flat area, so I've got to make something that will allow the gauge to sit out a bit further. So I'm just using a bit of aluminium TIG rod here just to bend it up a little bit to get the angle of that panel, and I'll make an adapter that fits down in there, but the gauge will sit out a little bit. And I'll have to do something to address the issue of that little removable panel poking out a little bit as well, so that I get a flat surface. I don't want to just double-sided tape this to the bike, because the battery comes out at the back, so it needs to be removable from time to time to replace the battery. So I'm making this adapter that it fits into. Now I can't make an adapter that it slides into from the top because there isn't enough room. So I'm going to make an adapter where it just fits in the front and have little brackets that hold it in. And because I can, I'm just going way too far, and I'm going to make an adapter out of this block of aluminium. Of course I won't be using the whole block, but I'll be using my nifty little milling machine to make up the adapter. And as you can see, I'm using a totally scientific method to work out the shape of this adapter. After all, failure is always an option, so if it doesn't work out, I guess you won't be seeing this video. Now it's off to the bandsaw to give it a rough cut, and of course some nice pink soap on the blade. Helps the blade cut through the aluminium better. Now that I've got the rough shape cut out, it's time to true up all the faces on the mill. It's so satisfying to see the mill turn a rough surface into a lovely, almost mirror finish. But in real time, it's a slow process. Look at that lovely smooth finish coming out the other end. Shed time is always so satisfying. I really don't know what blokes do that don't have a shed. Maybe they go out riding their bike rather than making totally unnecessary bling. There's some burrs left over on the edges from the mill finish, so I'll just take it over to the sander and chamfer those edges. Now it's time to mark out the recess for where the gauge will actually sit. I want the recess to be such that the gauge just sits a .15th above the surface, so that when the little top brackets sit on it, they just mildly squeeze it down. I don't have a powered crossfeed, so this has got to be done by hand. And it's 11mm deep, and I can only really cut half of that at a time, so it's 2 passes to get the right depth. Needless to say, this step takes quite a bit of time and produces a huge pile of chips. Okay, there's the recess cut out, but is it the right size? Let's give it a measure. Oh yes, just a tiny bit of clearance. Perfect. Now, I need some way of holding this in. We've got our shape, and I want just a right angle. And I'll use an M3 Allen head cap head bolt to hold it down. Now, in hindsight, I could have just cut a piece of aluminium angle, but I was so focused on using the mill that I milled a piece out of a block. What an idiot. Oh well, all good practice, I guess. And please note, I'm just a self-taught bumbler. Any proper machinist would be horrified to see what I'm doing with the mill. So this is how it all goes together. The gauge just slides in from the front. The two little pieces of angle sit on top and hold it down just firm. So now I need to mark and then drill and then tap the holes for those M3 bolts. And no, I don't trust that I actually got the centre, so I turn it round and check the other side. Oh yes, I did. What a miracle. I'm drilling through both pieces with the tapping size drill, and then I'll drill out a clearance hole for the top piece later. Putting the tapping tool in the mill quill means that I can get a nice straight hole and don't have to worry about whether the tap is going in straight or not. Okay, everything's done. Time for a bit of a test fit. Yep, I think that'll work. If I leave it like this, it's going to stand out like dog bits, so I'm going to spray it with some matte black. Here's the finished item, ready to be installed on the bike. I've cut a rough channel out of the back to cope with that removable panel that pokes out a bit, and I'm using heavy duty tape. This should hold the bracket pretty firmly, but it's not, entirely permanent. I could always take it off. But at least with the bracket stuck onto the bike, I can just unscrew those two screws to replace the battery from time to time. Sorry about the lighting, it's as black as the insides of a sheep. But it fits okay, and with a bit of pressure, just holding it down to make sure the tape actually sticks properly. Bob should be my uncle. So let's have a look at the final product. As you can see that it tends to just blend in with the rest of the blackness down there. I'm happy with that.